So, well, you shouldn't say that. Well,
something funny about America that ain't funny.
You got something else you're going to share?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, since you talked about chemical and biological warfare, I'll read some of something funny about America that ain't funny, because I talk about that in that poem. And I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll just read parts of it. You read Life magazine. The cover said, Mars, our next home. Same people that took your home. Did you read Life magazine? The cover said, Mars, our next home. I guess when that day comes, there will be something funny about Mars. Jack Kent Cooke is probably already making plans to build his new stadium on Jupiter. One day the Rockefeller family will be property owners of the planet Pluto. One day Wall Street will sell shares of stock for Saturn's rings. One day Whitney Houston will sing No Ordinary Love to a white man on Uranus. One day Whitney Houston will sing at Donald Trump's casino on Venus, still singing I will always love you to Kevin Costner, because Bobby Brown was too black to be the bodyguard. Ain't nobody humping around, because everybody's afraid of AIDS. Everybody's on financial aid. Everybody's extremely underpaid and no one wants to pay their dues. Stop letting this country think we like the blues. That's a good reason for some of them to give us more blues. And pale men in blue suits keep giving us old analogies like pull yourself up by your bootstrap. But we can't do that. We don't have no boots. Y'all got us all wearing Nike. We get used, and they even got us to get used jeans while they use our genes, G-E-N-E-S, to do tests, lab experiments for chemical, biological, genocidal warfare, and have the nerve to dare and say black men are inherently violent. And just about every one of us keeps silent. Just about every one of us keeps silent as they psychologically prepare our psyche. Y'all got us all wearing Nike and Reebok pumps, and 13-year-olds are labeled inherently violent for carrying a sawed-off pump, while rich men with earth-ending missiles are called peacemakers.
Would you kick the second part of that? You got a second part of that?
Oh, you want me to keep going?
Yeah, kick the second part while we got a little time here.
Okay, all right.
That's down, you know.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll kick
Want to come back and after we take the break and then kick the other part of that?
Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah, well, it's not time yet, but let's talk about that and what you were really saying there. Because again, the rhythm pulled me in, and what you were saying is really deep, because sometimes you find poets who don't really want to say those kind of things that straightforward at all. Why do you think that's so? They're afraid of what some people might say or think?
Well, definitely. I mean, if you look at how during, I'll give an example, how during slavery, when you had a couple of people who would speak up for the people on the plantation, they would use them as examples. So they would lynch them, they would beat them real bad. They would say, look, you don't want to be like this field Negro, you know, and so that would keep people in check. And, you know, they would abuse the women and make them so scared. The child that was in the woman's womb would even be scared. Yeah, because the woman was so scared of the slave master that even the child in the womb would be afraid before the child came out. And that's how we were trained. We were seasoned. And then you even look at today, when you have certain people who are looked upon as being negative because they stand up for positive reasons. And so a lot of times people don't want to speak out because they don't want to lose their job, or they don't want to hurt the opportunity to become famous or rich. So they just keep it quiet. And I'm just part of a generation that can't keep it quiet.
I think it's very good and that you would mention it, or give that example about slavery, because a lot of our people, particularly our young people, they don't want to talk about slavery. It's like, you know, that was back then. But I hear Jewish people talk about the Holocaust as if it happened yesterday afternoon. Right. But we don't really want to talk about our Holocaust. Exactly. That happened to us.
I mean, even when you look at the thing, hate crimes, that whole term, hate crimes, well, I mean, that's our history here.
White supremacy racism on the planet Earth is the greatest hate crime in the world. Let me say that.
Exactly.
What greater hate crime is there?
I can't think
than
of one.
the system that controls everybody of color on the planet.
I can't think of one.
And they don't talk about that.
And you know, and that's why it's important for African people to also be concerned with Native American culture and rights, because, you know, as I say in a poem, Native American blood has been spilled just for tracks for trains. You know, they wiped all the Native Americans out.
Never cut one treaty.
You know what I'm saying?
Not one.
Exactly. So that's very important. I'm glad you brought that up.
I'm glad you mentioned Native American culture, because, as you know, during the time of slavery, there was a lot of people who were taken in by Native Americans.
The Seminoles. I mean, like we look at the Florida State Seminoles now, and people make fun of emblem of the Seminoles. But
Yes.
the Seminoles, they fought with black people. They took some of the black slaves that left. They would go down to the Seminoles and fight together, and they fought together against the United States in the Seminole Wars, as a matter of fact, against Zachary Taylor.
You know, it's so interesting that there's a lot of places, there's a lot of cities and towns in this country named after Indians, particularly in the South. And you go there and you can't find no Indians.
Exactly.
I find that interesting.
Exactly.
Interesting phenomenon.
What if one day there'd be the Washington Blackskins instead of the Washington Redskins?
Yeah, that's true. What if the New York Honkies? You know? What we call the team that? We got to take a break right here. I'm Danny Quinn. We're here talking with poet Tim Wells. We're going to be right back.